but you decided to do your master's in education at one of the best universities in the world, Harvard. What was that experience like for you, Karishma? And what did you see? Why is Harvard one of the best universities in the world according to you? Based on your experience there.
Um, I think, and maybe this is controversial, but like I do think that the university is only as good as what you take out of it or what you put in it, I guess is a better way of putting it. But any university you go to, any access to knowledge uh is a positive one, right? I saw it as, and I struggled with the decision of whether I should, you know, take that or continue working, and it was a tough time and a tough decision to make. But at, at the time, I mean, I think I viewed it as an investment in myself, and in my future, and I think that's and time for myself, quite frankly, and doing things that I loved and figuring out what I wanted to do, and spending time in the classroom to reflect on all of the actions that we had done in school, to figure out what was the theory behind it. Because remember, I had never studied education. My background was in finance. So part of it was also to get that credential, like you say, right? And so I loved it, but I think um, the most thing that I loved about it was the connection to time, and the connection to the people in education, right? So I took a class with Howard Gardner, and that was something that was really, really, something that I had spent many, many years trying to, read his books and follow up on his research. And the fact that I was able to do that was something I never took for granted, right? And I think it required me to spend time in the real world trying to implement some of those things, to then go back to the drawing board and into his classroom and try to figure out what that meant, right? And I think that's what it was for me. The other thing was MIT's Media Lab, right? So being able to spend time at Lifelong Kindergarten, which is a research group at the Media Lab, was something that I had spent many, many years like looking into, and we'd visited them for a conference because of our work. And so it was phenomenal for me to go back and be able to work there and participate in that, right? And so I think those were my big takeaways from it. It was an important time, for me for sure, because it gave me that. I had this massive foundation with working in a school, and then it gave me that understanding of why certain things were working and why they weren't working, and having that support from an educational community was something that I realized I needed. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. But it wasn't easy, right? So I was working at like three different research labs, trying to implement like three different strategies, and a lot of that research, I think, like you rightly pointed out, even at the school, you are kind of standing on the shoulders of giants, right? In many ways, and just trying to learn about. Like I remember one of my professors, Chris Didi, he spent like 50 years in the research for VR in education.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's just phenomenal, right? Like we put on these glasses and we debate whether or not VR will work in the classroom or not. This guy has been at it for 50 years. And like been talking about it, and has believed in it for basically most of his life. And I think that to me is quite phenomenal, to have that sort of grit and persistence, in such a niche subject and area, was something that I really greatly appreciated.